I am Wes Ball, director of Kingdom and Planet of the Apes.
I'm Owen Teague, I play Noah.
And we're going to be breaking down this scene that you're going to see here about a bunch of apes climbing an ancient building. Movie takes place several hundred years after the end of Caesar's storyline. Follows this guy here, character named Noah. He's a young ape this time. He's idyllic and lives a very idyllic kind of life and existence with his little tribe, isolated from the larger world. He doesn't know anything about the world, what came before, what came after, and he sets off on this grand adventure to discover the truth about the world around him, including humans and what they left behind. And in the process, kind of comes of age and saves his family and sets about, hopefully a whole long future of more movies here. Well, what's really interesting is in the '68 original movie, you see our world has completely eroded away through time. And I thought it was a really fascinating idea that we could show the beginnings of that, where whole buildings are starting to overgrow and collapse and become just mounds of rubble that you could almost, you couldn't even tell that you were in the remains of the human world. And so that's a lot of the world that we travel through in this movie.
Only three.
We take them all. No, never. Leave one, always. That is the law. Bonding day is tomorrow. These are yours.
So these three apes that we meet in this scene, one is myself, Noah, and I think I'm in the front of the three of us. Suna is behind me, who's my friend, and maybe a little bit more than just my friend. And then Anaya is in the back, and he's kind of the show-off. He's the smallest of the three of us, and he's kind of the clown of the group. And we three grew up since childhood. We were born within a sunset, we say, and we've spent our whole lives together. We're basically siblings, but not actually siblings, but we share that kind of bond. And we're getting ready for something called Bonding Day, which is it's basically our
Rite of passage.
Yeah, it's our rite of passage.
Yeah.
It's our day of becoming adults. We have to climb for our eggs, and then we take our eagle eggs back to our village, and we sing to them. And we bond with them through this ritual that eventually they hatch and they become our eagles.
We will raise them together, like we were raised. It will be the same. Yes.
No, wait!
Everything from Ape School helped me in this scene. Ape School was crucial. We had our movement coordinator, teacher, Elaine Gauthier, who led us through a lot of physical training and physical character work to develop these characters, and not just, help us with the ape formats, but build specific, bodies basically for us, and work with our voices and make sure it was all integrated. Because I think the craziest thing about this whole process for me was just in terms of the craft of acting, how much it made me remember that it's all connected. Like if your body and your voice aren't working in tandem with your brain, you don't have a performance. Every little thing of how Noah walks, how Noah climbs, Noah's relationship with his friends, like that is the character.
Yeah, and you'll see it throughout the movie. You're
Yeah.
as you grow into this kind of confident character, starting as this naive kind of almost young adult.
Right.
You see your posture changing. You know,
Yeah.
your whole body language begins
The
to change.
body
So it's
language
real subtle,
changes,
subtle
the,
stuff.
The,
That
the voice even
works.
changes a bit. Yeah. And so part of Ape School for me was finding, you know, where in the movie Noah was internally and reflecting that in the body. Andy Serkis and I zoomed a few times, and he zoomed with the rest of the cast, and this scene was actually kind of very similar to some of the improvisations that he led me and Travis Jeffrey, who plays Anaya, and Lydia Peckham, who plays Suna. He would lead us through these kind of improvisations of the trio, and that really helped us find our dynamic. You know, I remember he would give us scenarios of like, okay, you're in the bonding ritual, and you know you're watching your eagle hatch, or you're training with your eagle, or whatever, you know. And we would kind of just find things organically. And so when it came time to shoot this sequence, a lot of the relationships that he had helped us develop really had already formed themselves, and we could sort of, we knew where we all stood in this scene.
Now that Andy was pretty, just an incredibly generous guy.
Yeah.
You know, we always thought him as the sort of the ape godfather.
Yeah.
You know, he started all this stuff. I mean, but he had done Gollum and King Kong before that, which I know you have a special kind of, you
Yep.
know, story about. But you know, early on, I showed him the script and I showed him the concept art before we even started shooting, and just to kind of get his feedback. Are we doing this right? Because obviously we wanted to set out and do our own thing, but we wanted to make sure that we had strong ties to like kind of what they established before. And Andy was really, I think, instrumental in helping that DNA kind of always kind of be there.
It's too far. Find another way.
Noah? No.
So this scene, with the exception of a few, I think 2 waterfall shots, is full CG. So in terms of the methodology, it's very close to something like Avatar, where we're on a volume, we're on a stage. And the thing about the stage volume is that, you know, these guys have to use their imagination and see this world around them. And we build very crude proxy objects for them to interact with, because the cameras have to see all their movements to be able to kind of replicate that stuff in this CG world.
Pick up all our
Yeah.
markers and everything.
And I think it's kind of fascinating that some people have seen the movie while working on it, and they didn't know that whole scene is full CG. Like the bark, the leaves and the trees blowing in the wind, every little piece of it is all very delicately finessed by really talented artists. And yeah, it just creates that world that we just, honestly, we couldn't really have built, you know?
Yeah.
So it was a fun little sequence to work on.
Performance capture, the technology, there's a learning curve. You know, you got a camera strapped to your head, and so if you're doing a close scene with somebody else, like I remember an
Bumping
early
into each
scene,
other.
yeah, with Suna, we're looking at each other and we were going, you know, hitting our face cameras, and so that it takes a second to kind of get used to it, but after a couple days, you know, by the end of the first week, you forget that it's there. And your body becomes so accustomed to having this thing here and, you know, working in this other format that it becomes an extension of the character. And
It's probably no stranger than what people forget is when we're shooting a movie, you see this beautiful background behind you in the frame, but in
Right.
front of you is a whole crew of
Yeah.
people, and you know, and a guy with his butt hanging out holding, you know,
Right.
whatever.
Well, yeah.
You know, so it's all an illusion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's you're wearing a visual effects costume in a way, right?
Yeah, it is a costume that you.
But for the most part,
on.
you're just acting. You're just
Right.
you're
Yeah.
just trying to make the moment honest and truthful, and trusting that all this technology that surrounds you
Is gonna support it.
Yeah, captures all that stuff so that we can use it later on in the next year and a half of post.
Yeah, that's the key, is just finding the truth of the scene and listening to the people who you're doing it with. You know, it's no different.
Well, it looks pretty silly if you see it on
Pretty
day.
silly. And it was also actually incredibly painful because the way that we had to do it so that I could swing, swing like you see in the, in the footage, they tied my wrist to this sort of
Pull-up bar.
pull-up bar essentially, but I was hanging from a like a stunt rope, and
It's really hard to do it by
it's
one
really
hand.
hard to hang
And
from one
perform
arm,
it.
and also like have the I
I
don't
was like, I'm sorry, one more.
I would do it and hang there and do the thing and then be like, okay, Wes, call cut, get me out of here.
There's two stunt guys right next to you in the footage, because it basically is dangling, a foot off the ground.
Yeah.
So it's not really terrifying. or
No.
anything, but all these guys are waiting to just kind of grab you,
Yeah,
take the weight
grab
off,
me
you know? It is a funny thing though. But it's a doing things in the mocap volume that we can do things that you just can't do otherwise. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We can kind of take shortcuts and try to make it as comfortable as possible.
Right.
When in reality you're hanging, 100 feet off the ground,
Yeah.
dangling over the ruins of a lost world.
Yeah, but I think it was your idea to have the egg in the foot.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
so great.
Which is, that's okay. There's an interesting idea where
Yeah.
originally you had it in your hand,
Right.
and then you brought it up, and we're like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, that's not apey enough.
not
So
apey.
we
Let's use the
added this
feet.
idea that you had it in your foot, and you carried it up and brought it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's always little things that we can do to constantly kind of, bring it further along.
Add the ape in
Yeah.
there a little bit. Yeah.